Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, May 15th to Saturday, May 21st. Okay, so let's hash out last week before we jump into this week. So last week we had our very first quarter moon in Leo, of course, since the new moon solar eclipse in Taurus. That first quarter moon definitely put us in a state of quote unquote action. Why? Well, because we were definitely feeling where it is that we had to boss up, where it is we had to fully express ourselves, where it is that we in our inner realms have been feeling a little bit backed into a corner, and where it is that we had to definitely make a move. Now, many of us trying to make moves in retrograde season, in eclipse season, you're not making very much progress in your physical circumstances. But I tell you, all of that is going to iron itself out. That first quarter moon in Leo definitely triggered us, brought a lot of fire back to our energy, made us realize what it is that makes us happy, that gives us a sense of pleasure and joy, where it is that our rawness, our vulnerability is actually our greatest strength. And again, gave us a beautiful opportunity to kind of open up, to let that energy out, to really get in alignment with what it is in our current circumstances that are not providing us any of those lovely, fluffy, joyful feelings that I just rattled off. Of course, that first quarter moon in Leo stirred a lot of things up just in time for Mercury to go retrograde. And on that same day that Mercury decided to swallow that pill, to be drugged, to move into an unconscious state of slumber, we had Jupiter, the planet of growth and expansion, move out of Pisces, move into Aries. Now, many of us feeling a little bit more awake, feeling a little bit more alive, a little bit more aggressive, if you will. Definitely a welcome change compared to all of that Piscean energy that has had many of us kind of stunted out, paralyzed, wish-washy, heavy, weighted for very, very long time now. But the adjustment period into this Aries energy where Jupiter is kind of showing us where it is that we have to welcome obstacles and challenges in order for us to step into our power, to reinvent ourselves, to stand in the face of adversity, of conflict, of opposition, and not back down regardless of how much many of us would love to do so, because we need to fight for what it is that we are passionate about, what it is that we currently desire. We have a brand new beginning, a brand new clean slate for us to start building upon. And with Jupiter really magnifying the possibilities of the future, we're feeling that inner desire to push forward, to rise above, to rise to the challenge. But of course, creating a lot of urgency in our realms, within our thoughts and feelings that we just can't do anything about as of now. You know, eclipse season, we're at the mercy of the universe playing out the scripts that we need to play out in order to align us with the path that we have to be walking, moving forward. Retrograde season has us kind of looking back, cleaning up the mess of the past before we can actually dive in and, you know, really take the opportunity to create something new. But that feeling is there, that urgency is there. We're feeling a little bit more bold and brave and courageous than we have in the past. We're fired up in all of the right ways, and maybe for some of us the wrong ways. But anger and aggression is a very powerful tool that, if you are disciplined enough, you can use to your advantage. So we definitely on the 10th had a wake up. We had Mercury, our mental plane, our information, our communication style just tank, while we had Jupiter move into Aries, pushing us to begin again, to start something new, to rise to those challenges, rise to those obstacles. For the most part, this last week has been very confusing, very chaotic. We can blame the eclipse portal for that. And of course, coming into this week, we have a lot to talk about. Let's start with the fact that this is the last week of Taurus season. The sun will be moving into Gemini energy on Friday, the 20th. And this is just going to wrap up the life lessons that we were meant to learn in Taurus energy, which was all about self-love, all about our self-worth, finding new worth and value within ourselves, our skill set, our talents, recognizing the foundation in which we've built in our physical realms, the relationship dynamics, the money matters that many of us realizing are not strong enough to stand the test of time. Many of us realizing that our foundations are being shook up in order for them to fall away so that we have the space to create something better, something new, something more aligned with our raw, authentic selves, and something that will be around for the long term. So as we kind of gain momentum towards the end of the week, we are going to feel that stubbornness, that fixed energy of Taurus, that want, need, and desire to boss up, to get to building, to roll up our sleeves, to start making the changes that we know that we have to make. But it is going to be an energetic, packed week because, of course, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio taking place, well, for part of us in the world, depending on where you're at, very late Sunday night on the 15th. And for many of us, very early on in the morning, Monday morning, the 16th. Regardless, we are going to be closing this eclipse portal that we've been in for 2 weeks. This is why things have been cray-cray. This is why we've been feeling like we're in a snow globe, in a whirlwind. This is why we are just absolutely confused. Now, keep in mind, this eclipse energy is a wild card energy. Lunar eclipses tend to remove something, to release something, to disconnect and detach from something. And as we've been exploring, the true nodes of the moon being on this Taurus and Scorpio axis since November 2021, taking us into 2023, is a life lesson on the Taurus energy, self-love, self-worth, self-value, relationships, money matters, examining the foundation in which we have had a hand in building, recognizing where it is that we've been overly attached to people, to identities, to possessions, and where it is that this blockage is actually preventing us from growth, from improvement, from enlightenment, from actually evolving. The Scorpio energy is about death. It's about rebirth, transformation. It's the emotional side of recognizing where it is that we are self-destructive, where we are self-sabotaging, where we are essentially blocking our own blessings. This Scorpio energy is going to show us where it is that, first of all of those underlying emotions that have been bubbling up, they have to be released. We got to get it out of our body. It is also going to show us where it is, because this is eclipse energy, where it is that the universe is saying, this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you because you did not take the opportunity to remove these elements from your life on your own free will. This is an opportunity for you to see where a space is being cleared out in your life in order for new elements to actually be built. This is a transformative process. Scorpio is ruled over by Pluto, ruled over by Mars. We have the god of the underworld who just wants transformation, turning pain into power. And we have the god of war, Mars, who just wants to fight for what it is that he's passionate about, what it is that he desires, what it is that actually keeps that spark and flame lit within ourselves. So yeah, I mean, a full moon lunar eclipse is nothing to shy away about, especially in Scorpio energy. It is going to be intense. It is going to be a very, very intense build up to this quote unquote release. And it's kind of interesting the way that things are going here, because there are a couple of notable mentions, I would want to say, that includes Venus and Chiron having a conjunction, a little bit of a meetup prior to this full moon lunar eclipse, which is basically exposing our wounds, especially within relationship dynamics that have definitely taken a hit over the last couple of weeks, and setting us up for a huge, huge opportunity to heal that particular relationship and self-love wound. So yeah, we will be moving into Pisces, or no, we will be moving into Gemini season. See how Mercury retrograde is already messing with me? I've had a hard time with speaking, and my thoughts in my head sound really, really good in my head, but the way that they come out of my mouth is just exhausting to me. And I'm trying my best to be as clear as I possibly can, but Mercury is definitely messing with my communication style. Mercury retrograde has already thrown people of my past back to me, which is a common theme, but we have to understand, what ones are coming up for a new lesson, a new resurfacing, if you will, for a different perspective, a different level of healing, and which ones are just coming out of the woodwork to see if we're still dumb, see if we're still stupid, to see if we actually learned anything. So, the typical Mercury retrograde symptoms are definitely coming on strong. And I just hope that I can get through this forecast without making too many little brain fart F-ups. What I was trying to say is that we're moving into Gemini season towards the end of the week. Gemini season is a time where, Mercury, being the ruler over Gemini season, really kind of gives us an opportunity to face two different polarized ideas, choices, decisions, paths. It's essentially, especially coming at us after this eclipse, it's essentially a choice point, whether or not we're going to revolve around the same old, or whether or not we're going to evolve into something new, using the transformative energy, not only from the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio, but this whole eclipse energy, this eclipse season, to realign us in a path that is better suited for our soul's mission, our soul's purpose. What I find to be super interesting is that when the sun moves into Gemini season, Mercury, who is moving backwards in Gemini energy, will bump into the sun. They will team up. They will conjunct one another before Mercury slips back into Taurus energy. That whole conjunction towards the end of the week is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. Many of us in this state of confusion have been hoping and praying for clarity. And let me just tell you, clarity is on its way, but you do not have a choice in how it is delivered to you. Meaning, you could have some very disturbing information be revealed that totally changes the game. You could see someone in a totally different light that is totally going to change the energy exchange in the way that you feel about them. It could be a disturbing amount of information and perspective and understanding that gets downloaded into your reality that totally shifts you into seeing things in a totally different light. That is clarity. Or you could get lucky and you could have just a whole vision, a whole dream, a beautiful aha moment where everything snaps into place, where you get a vision and a dream of what it is that you're working towards, when you get, this beautiful inner workings of the plan, the logical, practical, strategic steps that you have to take in this next phase in order to clean up the elements of the past that are preventing you from truly moving forward. It is clarity nonetheless. And that is definitely coming at us and for us towards the end of the week. And we also, again, notable mention, have Mars, who is in Pisces, going to be conjunct Neptune, the ruler of Pisces energy, towards the end of the week as well. And I'm definitely going to encourage you to tune in to the daily energy forecasts if you don't do that already, because when we kind of get closer to the end of the week, that's going to manifest in two different ways. Mars and Neptune, if we look at the shadow realm of those energies, could be a very volatile situation, could be definitely a situation of overwhelming energies and confusion, putting us in a state of wanting to numb, turning to addictive substances or methods of behaviors that really kind of create more drama for us than anything else. Hopefully, many of us are going to be able to tap into the positives of Mars conjuncting Neptune, which is a just huge transformation, information, insight, download from the highest realms, from our intuition, from the soul contracts that are now being unveiled for us. And I feel like Because many of us have been disconnected from our intuition, from the higher realms through this eclipse energy, I hope that many of us, especially after the work that we have to do with this full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio, I feel like many of us are going to be open and receptive and leaning more into the higher vibrations and frequencies of what some of these astrological aspects can deliver to us, especially as we move through the difficult ones towards the end of the week. But as of right now, if you're listening to me Friday evening, I want to thank you for not only joining me and joining the rest of the community here, but I want to wish you a very happy Friday the 13th. Now, there's a lot of discussion around Friday the 13th, and I just wanted to take a minute to kind of give you my point of view, my opinion on it. Way back, let's go back to like early times, okay? Way back in the day, Friday the 13th was actually a very, very lucky day for a couple of reasons. First of all, our ancient ancestors actually believed that God was a quote unquote female. They worship the divine feminine, the divine goddess. We in astrology know her as Venus. Venus rules over Fridays. In other mythology, you may know her as Aphrodite. You may know her as Freya. It's all the same energy. It's all the same goddess. It's all the same focus. I feel like the 13 number has become a little bit demonized, especially I believe it was around like the 14th century. The powers that be decided to turn it into a bad thing. Why? Because, as we know, the small group of elitists, the Illuminati, if you will, they like to make the general public fear and hate the power that they use in order to gain in this world. Now, not that I want to go into a whole history lesson here, but the Knights Templar, who was the original, let's call it military of the church, the very foundings of the beginnings of the Knight Templar, they actually were Gnostics, and not the modern day Gnostics that we know that religion to be, but they actually worshiped the feminine divine energy. And they went through a rebranding because, of course, the Catholic conversion used to go into little villages and kill anyone who believed in Mother Earth or nature or the law of the land, and of course, gave them the label of a quote-unquote witch. And that's why everybody has a negative perspective on what a witch is. A witch is somebody that lives off of the natural laws of the earth, that uses plant medicine, that is in touch with Mother Earth herself. But of course, that got demonized because the small group of elitists, they did not want the same knowledge that they had being used by common folk. So through the whole Christian conversion, through the whole, Catholic Church, through the whole initiation of the foundation of what religion has become in our realm, we had the original ancestors actually knowing what was up, and they worshipped the feminine goddess. And that's why now most religions think God is a man, quote unquote. And we also have seen true oppression where the feminine divinity is concerned. The number 13 comes into play because 13 is a powerhouse number. It is a magical number that the small group of powerful elitists wanted the general public to fear. That's why many hotels do not have a 13th floor. That's why 13, unlucky number 13, superstition, Friday the 13th, bad. No, it's actually not the case. There was a 13 lunar cycle that our whole calendar, when we all lived off of the land and used the natural laws of the land, that's what the calendar was. And of course, now we have, turned into the 13 moon cycle calendar to the Julian calendar, which is now the Gregorian calendar, which is a capitalized overlapping of the pagan holidays. Again, paganism gets a bad rap because pagans lived off the land. They worshipped the cycles of the moon. And let me just tell you, I should be doing a rant about this. I have a whole list of videos that I should be ranting about, but I'm semi-fearful to do that because of the censorship. But anyways, I see a lot, especially now where, the satanic agenda is coming into the mainstream media type of thing. I see a lot of people out there really hating on a lot of the symbolism that, of course, the not so nice dark force agenda uses, and that many people now have a negative perspective against. I just want to throw this out there. The black and white checkerboard tile that you see in many Masonic temples, okay? That's not a bad thing. Knowledge and power is knowledge and power. Whoever is using it and however they choose to use it makes it both good or bad. Black and white is the dualistic nature of the forum, the battlefield that we as earthlings are here to live out. That's what Earth is all about. That's why we come to this classroom, because it's a dualistic, polarized classroom. And what better way to represent dark and light, because dark doesn't exist without the light and the light doesn't exist without the dark, than to have that represented with the polarized, dualistic, extreme points of view of black and white. The serpent has been demonized from day one. The serpent is actually the knowledge bringer, the light bringer that freed, quote unquote, Adam and Eve, if you believe in all those stories, freed them. And I say freed because technically they were living in a delusion, quote unquote, paradise, where they didn't have free will or enlightenment or consciousness. So the serpent essentially gave them the wisdom and the knowledge to awaken. Right? But now the serpent is kind of demonized, not realizing that Kundalini, the Kundalini energy that you have to have, bringing that life force energy from the earth into your body through all the chakras, through all of the vertebrae, the 33 vertebrae in your back, that is Jacob's ladder, to get to the very top, to basically explode the pineal gland in your head. That is our quote unquote biological consciousness, if you will. Once that's awakened, your third eye is awakened, you become a little bit more aware. And even still, like the left eye thing that, this group of dark force energy people use, that actually goes back to the Egyptians. There's left and right eyes that go back to the Egyptian mythology, the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra, right? It is power. It is knowledge. It is just because these people use this power, this knowledge for dark force agendas that we have kind of grown to hate it, that we think that it's bad. And it really bothers me, especially in the spiritual community that is 90% fake anyways. And the videos that are out there thinking that they are uncovering the truth, but just in the wrong way. We've been dispositioned to think that the number 13 is bad. 13 is the most powerful number that you could ever use in your magic, in your numerology, in the vibrations and frequencies of all the intentions that you're trying to focus on. In numerology, it boils down to a number 4, and the number 4 rules over the 4th house that the moon, that Cancer rules over. Well, the mother goddess of all stages of her life, maiden, crone, all the phases of the goddess, right? That is the moon. And the moon in Cancer and energy is the foundation, the portal that gives birth to the foundation of our home, of our family dynamic, that gives us emotion and intuition to be able to not only build ourselves up, but to build ourselves up in such a way to take care of everyone else. And so this whole Friday the 13th having this negative connotation to it really bothers me. As you know, you've been picking up on my passion as of late, talking about some of the things that just absolutely irritate me to my core. And, a lot of the symbolism that these dark force agenda people are using is actually working to their benefit, because those that are just awakening to the symbolism, to the knowledge, to the power that they have been using, think that what it is that they're doing is actually bad. It's not what they're doing is bad, because they're trying to force a dark force agenda that is worshiping man instead of worshiping quote unquote God. But at the same time, the methods, the power, the knowledge, the wisdom that they are using is not bad. It's the way that they're using it that has the bad perception around it. So like I said, I may get a little bit brave here soon and start going on some rants. I really appreciated last week the way that y'all responded to me touching on some of the, current political situations and celebrity drama and just the evolution of what's going on in our physical realm. I know that, there's so many people out there wanting me to speak my piece on the Bible. And again, I'm still kind of iffy on that one. I like to drop little seeds in order for y'all to kind of pick apart what it is that I'm saying so that I don't get kicked off of this platform and censor it all together. But at the same time, I'm coming to a point where a lot of the information through this awakening, and let me just remind you that the apocalypse, the translation of apocalypse is the veil being lifted. The veil is being lifted. That's what an awakening is all about. And we are in a time of awakening as we prepare to shift into the age of Aquarius, because we moved out of the age of Pisces, which was the unconscious collective, and moving into the age of Aquarius requires us to be the conscious collective. So I thought that maybe just using the Friday the 13th thing would be a good example on how it is that a lot of the things that we have been positioned and conditioned to be against and to think is bad is actually the dark force agenda's way of protecting the knowledge and the power that they don't want us to have. So I'm not sure what your thoughts are on February. Here we go with Mercury retrograde again. Come on, Marley, get it together. Friday, not February, Friday the 13th. Not sure what your concepts are around that, whether you thought it was positive or negative, or whether you're superstitious or not. Drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear a little bit of feedback on what you thought about that little rant that I just went on. Okay, so let's talk about some of the ascension symptoms. Now, may I remind you, ascension, what is it? Well, to ascend means that we are moving up. What are we moving up in? We're moving up in a vibration and a frequency. How do we know that? Well, because all emotions carry a specific vibration and frequency. When we talk about the ego self, we're talking about the lower vibrational frequency of pain, of fear, of suffering, of control. When we talk about the higher realms of vibration and frequency, we are talking about the higher self. Anything above the heart chakra of love and connection and communication and awareness and awakening is the higher vibrations and frequency that we are ascending to. When a plane takes off, the plane is ascending up into the sky. When the plane is coming down, it is descending. The awakening process is a multiple level awakening, meaning there are some days that we are ascending, and then there are some days that we are descending. When the energy is high, when the energy is potent, when the electromagnetic frequency coming in from the cosmos is popping off, we can see that on the Schumann Resonance. We can see that with the solar flares and the solar plasma and the solar winds popping off from the sun. Typically speaking, depending on where it is that you're at in your journey, you will either level up and ascend with those vibrations and frequencies, or you will descend in those vibrations and frequencies. If you think of your heart chakra being the midpoint in your physical body and your energetic body, everything below the heart chakra is the egoic self. We have the root chakra at the base of our butt, tailbone, if you will. That is the root chakra. That is where we hold the egoic identity of survival, where pain and trauma is alive and well. When we move up the chakra system, we bring in more light. What is light? That is knowledge. That is information, right? So this whole ascension process is us trying to level up, us trying to create a brand new baseline for our vibration and frequency, for our awareness, for our perspective, for our understanding. The ascension symptoms definitely like to illuminate where the energy is blocked in our physical body. This is when we can get the ascension symptoms such as the flu, when you are exhausted, when you're achy, when you feel like you have the flu, when you feel like you're sick. It's because the The biological emotions of trauma, pain, and suffering are trapped in your physical body. And the higher the vibe coming in from the cosmos, pushing us to bust free, to break up these light codes, to break up these, cluster Fs of energy in us, it creates physical symptoms of pain and discomfort. Typically speaking, we're in an eclipse right now. The eclipse portal is very dramatic, very chaotic for a reason. We're supposed to be in a state of chaos. We're supposed to be in a situation where we're being stripped away of all in which is no longer serving us. This is, I continue to say that, we're all kind of going through a cycle of the dark night of the soul. People often ask me, well, when does the dark night of the soul stop? Well, probably when you're dead. And that's just the bluntest answer that I have for you. We, as human beings, are here to learn, are here to evolve, are here to constantly do better. That is a constant state of ascension. The dark night of the soul is when we essentially need to unlearn everything that we've learned, when we need to look at ourselves and the lives that we've created from an observer point of view and recognize that our ego self is mostly responsible for building a false reality that we don't feel good about anymore. And therefore we go through the process where we don't know who we are, where we question everything, where we feel like we're starting from scratch. That is absolutely necessary. I want you to remember that healing is not linear. Linear is like we start at A, we end at Z, okay? Straight line, straight fashion, stable line. We don't learn that way. We don't live that way. We don't heal that way. It is very much an up and down process. An ascension, a descension. An ascension, a descension. And what happens is many people think that, oh my goodness, like the past is coming back. I bring this up because retrograde season, many people hate retrograde season. Retrograde season it gives us a chance to pause and reflect and review our lives to see what is working, what isn't working, what do we want to make changes to? What do we need to reinvent? What do we need to redo? What do we have to revisit, re-edit, revise, rebuild, recalibrate, realign with? This is not a time to be feared. It's a very treasured time if you're willing to do the work. And if you're awake right now and you're not doing the work, that's why you're in a state of constant pain and suffering, because you haven't been doing the work. Shadow work is absolutely necessary. You have to dive into those hurtful, painful thoughts, emotions, and memories. You have to understand them. You have to make peace with them. You have to be grateful for them. That's how we alchemize. That's how we turn pain into power. So we have retrograde season. What happens in retrograde season? Well, the past comes back to our present. And many of us would be like, what? I thought I was done with this lesson. I thought I healed this wound. I thought I closed this chapter. Let me just remind you that healing and ascension are a spiral, okay? We're not going in circles here. We're in a spiral. And I want you to think of a parking garage, okay? You come into the parking garage, you go up level 1, right? No parking spots. We're going up to level 2, right? We go to level 3, we go to level 4, we go to level 5, we finally find a parking spot. When we are looking to get out of the parking garage, then we have to come down that spiral, okay? So essentially, we all come in with a certain soul contract of missions, individual missions that we're here to learn. And let's say that you just chose 3 particular life lessons that you wanted to learn very thoroughly about in this life. And let's say that is trust, self-love, and what are we going to call the other one? I don't know. It really comes down to self-love, to be honest with you. All lessons come down to self-love. Okay, maybe we'll just use 2 because Mercury retrograde is really messing with my head and I can't think of a third one that I want to really run with right now. So we'll just say trust and self-love. Well, first of all, if you have self-love, you'll be trusting yourself and you're easily able to trust others once you trust yourself. So that's, again, it all comes down to self-love. But if you came into this realm in order to learn certain lessons, you're going to learn that lesson. And then you're going to have a new set of people enter into your realm to test you if you've seen that lesson from a different perspective. And then you're going to retrace your steps, and the past is going to come back in a different form to see whether or not you are trusting of the cosmos, trusting of yourself, trusting of the intuition. And, you're constantly going to be put in relationships that demean you and belittle you in order for you to learn to love yourself. It all comes down to self-love. So we're in this parking garage, this spiral, if you will, moving up and then moving down. And hopefully one of these days, we will not ever visit the lower realms of ego, of emotion. Ego is not bad. We need ego for survival here on this human earth plane. We need it. It's not a bad thing. But we have to learn how to operate from our highest self, from our observer self, from our soul self, instead of being sucked in to this negative, egoic, conforming, painful construct of what it means to be a human. And when we're talking about consciousness, think of Satan at the bottom, right? Ruling over the ego, because the ego is what man is made of, the lower vibrations and frequencies. And we're constantly trying to climb up that ladder, okay? Those 33 vertebrae in our spines to get at least up to the heart chakra, because the heart chakra needs to be open. It needs to be flowing. It is the center point of where we can access the higher realms, the higher vibrations, the higher frequencies, the higher emotions. And one day you will not be able to go back to the very beginning of that ladder and sit with quote unquote Satan in that dark, unconscious emotion and energy and pain. So your baseline will become where it is that we're currently at, because we just locked in our baseline with this new calendar that we entered into in Aries season. Mother Earth herself, she has upped her ante. Her baseline pulse is, way above the 7.85 hertz that it was normally at. All the solar flares, all the electromagnetic frequencies coming in has raised her vibration and frequency, which means that we have to raise our vibration and frequency. So I know I'm on a rant here. I know I'm repeating myself. Y'all told me last week that it's okay for me to repeat myself, which I totally appreciate. I totally appreciate the love, the support, the understanding. So if this is repetitive for you, I do apologize, but at the same time, sorry, not sorry. Y'all told me that sometimes a reminder isn't a bad thing. The reason why I'm on this rant is because many people will reach out to me after I put these ascension forecasts out and be like, oh, well, my joints hurt, my legs hurt, my hip is popping off. You didn't mention that. Is this an ascension symptom? Well, yeah, it is, but it is a standard ascension symptom. That comes with the standard ascension symptom, flu-like symptoms. If you are having flu-like symptoms, it is the base level of the standard symptoms that one would feel going through this ascension, this awakening process. Again, what I like to talk about in these ascension forecasts are the new ones that aren't so common, that like to pop off, that like to just show their face to us. And a lot of that is for the chapter that we're in, the energy that we're in, the astrology that we're dealing with. So yes, there's always a chance that what you're experiencing is the base level ascension flu. And anything over and above that is kind of the rare ones that pop off when we reach a certain vibration and frequency in the cosmos. So I know that was a very long segue, but I do want to talk about the fact that the confusion that we're feeling is due to Mercury being retrograde, is due to eclipse season, having to put us in a state of craziness, of chaos, to break us down, to be raw and vulnerable so that we can build ourselves back up in a better way. I'm going to use the analogy. Sometimes you need to get in a fight with someone that you love in order to be broken down, to be raw, to be vulnerable, in order to see each other in your rawest form, to see whether or not you actually love and adore and see this person as worth and value of your time, energy, and attention. That is where intimacy is born out of, is being broken down. raw and vulnerable, seeing the masks fall off and then choosing to work together to build up from that breakdown. This is very much why we're in a state of confusion and vulnerability right now, because we need to be broken down so that we are opened up a little bit more. We're more adaptable. We're more open to change, because Lord Jesus knows we got a ton of change coming at us. This confusion is necessary. This energy in our headspace, because Mercury is drugged and essentially asleep at, well, I don't want to say asleep at the wheel, because the other planets that are still direct took him out, put him in the back seat with Pluto. They're both on a trip on, just, I'm not even going to say having a great time, but they're having a time nonetheless in the back seat, all passed out and hopped up on the goods. And they're being drawn into a fantasy land, into a unconscious state of awareness where old memories are coming up, where old conversations, old topics, old themes are coming up in order for us to gain perspective and power from that. And boy, are we going to gain a whole lot of clarity from this confusion that we're currently going through. But this gives us the physical symptoms of dizziness. Maybe you have a head cold. Maybe you have stuffiness going on in your nostrils. Maybe you have an overwhelming amount of goo coming out of your sinus cavity. That is okay. That is what we need to have happen, because that is breaking up the biological blocks that are built from the emotional trauma stored in our cellular memory in our physical forms. We need that to be moving. Emotions. Emotion. E is for energy. Motion is the movement that we have to provide our physical bodies with to get the energy out, to move the emotion out of our cellular memory and into our consciousness so that we can do something about it. Yes, misunderstandings, miscommunications are high. We're in a retrograde. Mercury is in its place of power in Gemini, for Christ's sake, right? We're definitely at odds. Our heart and our head is not on the same page. Our physical realms and our spiritual realms are disconnected. We are feeling that disconnect within ourselves. We sure as hell are feeling the disconnect with other people. We're having a hard time. Relationships are being challenged and tested for good reason. Many of us have built a reality that we do not feel connected with, but are scared to let go of. Sometimes we need to have miscommunications and misunderstandings in order for arguments to take place, for us to feel whether or not we're invested enough, whether we see value and worth enough to continue to pour into the cups of those that we love that right now we might not like, okay? You can love someone and not like them. That's a thing. You need to accept that. That's what we're currently going through. So we have all of this congestion in our heads, this dizziness, this stuffiness, this pressure coming in from the crown. This is like a zap of energy, and it's almost like we're trying to get started. So we get this wah, 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 wah. You ever try to start a car and the timing belt is off and it just won't catch and it just won't start? There's energy there, but then it dies off. There's energy there, but then it dies off. We're waiting for that catch. We're waiting for that alignment, which isn't going to come for another couple of weeks. So we have all of these emotions that we can't even put our finger on. We can't even describe what's going on in our inner realms, let alone be able to clearly and confidently convey those emotions and thoughts and ideas to other people. This is why miscommunications and misunderstandings happen. But the full moon, which is supposed to intensify and illuminate hidden emotions, hidden thoughts, hidden information. And of course, when the moon is bright in the night sky, we see the world from a different set of eyes. It's, moonlight is a different luminary. It's not like the sun. There's a lot of things that move around that lurk in the night that we wouldn't see in the daytime. And there's a lot of beauty in the nighttime as well. But this full moon is about illuminating the inner emotions that we are trying to keep to ourselves. But here's the thing, like I mentioned, Scorpio energy often is, first of all, the most misunderstood sign of the zodiac. Secondly, should honestly be a fire sign because of the passion, because of the desire, because of the intensity. But here's the thing, it is a water sign for a reason, because emotions are transformative. Water is the only let's call it thing that can morph into different beings, a liquid state, a gas, a solid, okay? It's transformative, it's cleansing. We have to recognize that the fiery emotions are bubbling up within us at this point in time because we are volcanoes ready to explode. We need to explode. We have to get it out. Keeping this energy, keeping this intensity, keeping this anger, keeping this whatever in us under the surface of awareness within ourselves and to other people is going to make us physically ill, is going to make us physically sick. The purge is necessary. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream, scream. If this is coming in the state of constipation to a huge release where you get emptied out, do that too. That's a form of release. Scorpio energy is notorious for constipation and bowel issues because we have a hard time letting go, right? We're fixated. We have a hard time letting the past go. So we literally hold on to the toxic poop within us that will literally make us sick. The full moon is a time of release. Your bowels know what to do. Let it out. Let the anger out. There's a lot of fire, a lot of fury, a lot of power that anger gives us, but many people are afraid of their own anger. This is shadow work. You have to know how to control the negative emotions. When you know how to control the negative emotions, you are standing at your most powerful point in time, because many people, we would like to not really think this way, but sometimes anger, pain, trauma, hate, is more of a motivation, an inspiration, and a catalyst for change than love will ever be. That's plain and simple truth. So you need to be the master of your shadow self so that you can harness the negative emotions and use them to build something better. We have a lot to release, a lot to get out. There's a lot of inner urgency going on. There's a huge change, a huge transformation taking place on a soul level. Generational traumas being healed. Soul contracts are being rewritten. We are dealing with our ancestral pain and trauma. Also, ancestral power and healing abilities, mind you. Our psychic abilities are coming online. Our amount of awareness and enlightenment is just popping off. But the inner state of change, of urgency, of transformation is putting us at odds because our physical circumstances have not changed. They will change. There will be a physical circumstance fallout from the inner transformational work that we're currently doing. We will see the evidence of that take form in our physical realm, but it ain't happening yet. This is an inner realm situation first. And yes, it's absolutely exhausting. And yes, it can trigger a lot of hopelessness, we'll say. Our hopefulness has been a little bit, I'm going to say, stunted over the last 2 weeks because of the disconnect that we have to our higher self and to the higher realms. So many of us are just suffocating under the physical circumstances because, of course, our ego wants us to rely on the logic and practicality of the data that our physical bodies are bringing in, and our physical bodies are saying, well, nothing has changed. You're stuck in this rut. These are your physical circumstances. You're never going to be able to grow out of that. Again, that's ego. We haven't been able to rise above that. We haven't been able to have a vision, have a dream, have this validation from our higher self, from our spirit guides, from the other realms of intelligence that are here helping us out. That is coming, but it is not happening yet. Therefore, the chaos that we are seeing, the hopelessness that we're seeing, the stuckness that we're seeing is absolutely exhausted. Now, you throw in the dream matter, okay? Dreams popping off, retrograde, right? Eclipse energy. Our unconscious material needs to come into our awareness in order for us to process and integrate it. Many of us are not willing to process that awareness in our waking state. That's why we have a dream state. That's where we hash it all out. We're in a retrograde, so old people resurfacing either in your physical realm or in your dream state is going to rattle you. Dive into it. There's a reason for it. Get to the primary root, the cause, the lesson of their particular purpose in your life. We have old memories popping back. We have old pain, old trauma, old situations resurfacing. Like I said at the beginning, we're like, damn, I thought I was done with this. I thought I healed this wound. I thought I was over this. I thought this chapter was closed. Again, our healing is not linear. Just like when we level up, when we reach a new level of awareness, of enlightenment, of understanding, we have to have the past come back to our present moment so that we can see it with a fresh set of eyes, with our new knowledge, with our new perspective, because that's how we heal. When we see the past from a different perspective, it rewrites the inner narrative that we're basing our present day and our future decisions on. We're an operating system, and the old system is flawed. It needs an upgrade. That's what retrogrades are all about. It's us kind of seeing the part of the operating system that is old, that is dated, that needs to be defragged, rewritten altogether. And that's what we are doing from the higher observer mind, because now we have a different set of understandings and awarenesses that we have had to learn the hard way, essentially. Many of us having acid reflux. Why? Well, because there's a lot of fire. We haven't been used to this fire. We had Venus in Aries. We had Jupiter just move into Aries. Chiron, of course, is in Aries. That's a lot of fire energy. And because we are fired up in all the right ways in order to be stimulated enough to have motivation and inspiration to push ourselves forward, we are fired up in our inner realms. This is creating a lot of acid reflux. This should be positioning you to take a good look at what it is that you're putting in your body. We constantly are talking about our diets changing, our cravings changing. We have to move away from processed foods, move more into life force energy foods. And, any time that you have something popping off in your physical body, it's trying to send you a message on the energetic want, need, and desire to make a change. And acid reflux is definitely a burn that you're not going to be able to ignore. We have a lot of weight on our shoulders, a lot of pain in our shoulders. We have a lot of neck issues, jaw issues. We have a lot of, I'm just going to say it, we have a lot of roles and responsibilities that are sucking the life out of us. And of course, Saturn likes to give us a little dose of reality every now and then in order for us to gain perspective on what it is that is sucking the life out of us, that is pressurizing us, is weighing on our shoulders, is creating literally a pain in our ass or a pain in our head in order for us to recognize what it is that we've outgrown. Now, I will say towards the end of the week, after we get through this eclipse energy, with some of these other aspects that are taking place, we are going to feel that weight be lifted. We are going to feel like we can breathe again. We have a lot of heart chakra activations coming at us this week because of Venus, especially Venus bumping into Chiron, the wounded healer. Yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, we're going to have a breakdown right before that full moon where we're going to have to just let it all out. But letting that all out, putting the mask down, being raw, being vulnerable, really knowing where the wounds are still alive and well helps us heal. That is a part of it. Lean all the way into it. Shadow work is essential. Many people complaining of silly little accidents, just things that didn't need to happen, spraining fingers, tripping over feet, bumping heads. A lot of that, again, retrograde, things slowed down. Gravitational pull is not what it used to be. We have fluctuating energies coming in, pushing us forward in some ways, pulling us back in other ways, which is totally distorting the time linear space aspect of our dimension. So be very cautious about the silly little accidents that don't need to happen. It's hard to stay in the present moment right now. It's hard to stay conscious about your physical body, your physical actions, because your mental plane is asleep because Mercury is retrograde. But that is what we constantly have to be focused on bringing into our awareness so that we don't find ourselves. My mother, for example, banged her head very badly multiple times within the first 3 hours that Mercury went retrograde. She doesn't even believe in this stuff. She says she believes in it because it's what I do. She's just trying to be supportive, but at the same time, she don't know what's going on. And it's just funny to hear about what happens to people, especially the ones that don't believe in astrology, because it's laughable. Like, it is laughable. And I don't mean to laugh at her hitting her head very, very hard on the trunk and then the stairs and then the door, the cupboard door. But it happened, and it's kind of funny, right? Because your brain is not working, and the dimensional space and time is fluctuating. And it's just little things that don't need to happen, but you're not paying attention because your mind is somewhere else. So it's a good indication to just be a little bit more aware so that silly accidents don't have to happen. Muscle spasm, twitches, tremors. Let me tell you, my right hand, my upper back of my bicep has been twitching like an MFer. It is so annoying. Now, granted, that is an injection site for me. I do get injections every 2 weeks, and my arms are my only injection points. So I do have a little bit of an activation there. There is a reason, a biological, physical reason for it. But at the same time, I've been getting these injections for a very long time now. I've never, ever had a tremor, a spasm be so concentrated in one particular area. And for me, this is where in my body, I am feeling it the most. Now, one might say, oh, well, what does that mean? Well, first of all, your left side is your emotional, spiritual side, your receptive side. Your right side is your, let's call it survival, aggressive side. It's also my writing hand, and my guides have been after me to start writing. I'm supposed to be writing books. I'm supposed to be writing courses. I'm supposed to be writing workshops. I'm supposed to be making movies. I'm supposed to be doing all this, making informational videos, and I haven't because I'm a procrastinator. And I'm getting the signs and symbols in my physical body that are bugging the hell out of me in order for me to get a grip, get my shit together, and to basically get the energy out of my body. How do you do that? You start writing, right? So today, to prepare for this forecast, of course, I had to sit down and look at the astro forecast for the week and make some notes. And I haven't had a spasm all day because I'm putting that energy to work. I'm giving it a focus. I'm giving it a direction. So that's a good indicator. I'm not saying that it has to happen to you in your left or right side or in your arm, but pay attention to where the muscle spasms, the twitches, the tremors are taking place, because that is a good indicator on where the energy is trapped and what it is that you need to do to get it out of your body. Last week, we talked about the increase in oils in our body. This week, we're going to talk about dryness and burning in your skin, in your lips. You're thirsty as hell. Again, there's a lot of fire. Your throat might be scratchy. You could be drinking lots of fluids and still have a dry throat. Again, Mercury rules over communication. We're having plenty of misunderstandings and miscommunications at this time. We're really not fluent in the way that our words come out, and therefore that is the throat irritation. But we are essentially, and again, I want to talk about extremes here. We're in eclipse season, which is about the extremes between the Taurus energy and the Scorpio energy. We are also having Mercury, ruler of the mental plane and communication, in a retrograde in Gemini, its place of power, which is also very divided, very dualistic, very polarized. And we are, wrapping up the life lessons of Taurus season before we jump into Gemini season, which is honestly going to be that much more divisive, that more indecisive, that more polarized, that more dualistic, in order for us to find common ground, in order for us to find a middle point. So it only makes sense if we had an overabundance of oil coming out in our hair, our skin, in all different forms last week, that this week we're going to be dried out as all hell. Our skin flaking, chipping off, hangnails, lips burning, flaking off, eyes dry, throat dry, that acid reflux just a burning in our inner realm. Like, there's a lot of fire that we're not used to, and definitely to blame for the dualistic extremes that we're now going to have to experience to find a nice balancing point. One thing I want to talk about, do you recognize yourself? I mean it. Like, when you walk by the mirror, do you recognize yourself? Because we're going through a huge transformation that I know starts on the energetic and energetic realm, but many of us are seeing the physical, what I would call side effects of the inner transformation that is going on. Now, we are in a time of reinvention, of rebranding, of rebirthing, of renewal, and that will have some physical side effects on how it is that we see ourselves. And the more love that we pour into ourselves, the more value, the worth that we find within ourselves, because of course we are in Taurus season, the way that we look at ourselves, see ourselves, physical attributes, things that we hated about ourselves don't stand out nearly as much. And maybe other things that you haven't even noticed about yourself now becomes the focus of attention. I want to know, because many of us avoid looking at ourselves in the mirror, and then there's other people who can't stop looking at themselves in the mirror. I want to know, regardless of whatever side you're on, whether you avoid the mirror or you're all about the mirror, I want to know, do you look differently? Do you recognize yourself? I want to throw caution out there. We talked a little bit about this when we did a rundown for the astrology for the week, and Mars and Neptune having their little conjunction later on this week. I really, really, really want to give you a caution here, a heads up that if you embody the negative vibrations and frequencies, or if the negative shadow part of this particular aspect manifests in your physical reality as being overwhelmed, being so confused, being deluded that you need to numb, please be cautious of your alcohol intake, of your drug intake. Even prescription drugs are going to hit you different this week. I want you to recognize the actions, the behaviors, the routine, the go-to that you go to in order to distract yourself from feeling. And may I just remind you, if you're not feeling, you're not healing. You need to feel before you can heal. So I'm a little bit concerned because with all the energy at play, especially later on this week after we get through this eclipse energy, that many people are going to take a deep dive in the wrong direction and find themselves picking up past habits. Again, we're in a retrograde. Past habits, past, addictive qualities, past routines that weren't happy and healthy and supportive. This is not the time to go back to anything, especially if you busted your ass to grow up and to grow away from things that were hurtful and damaging to you. Please do not ever go back to those things that you fought so hard to get away from. There are other means that you can dive into that will distract you in ways that your old addictions had provided to you without having to go back to the depths of your darkness and start over. Huge, huge caution about that. So what I want to leave you with is that, you know what, we're in for quite a time, and clarity is coming. Vision, insight, connection is coming. A huge shift, a huge transformation is already underway. And especially with this full moon, total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, the transformative sign of the zodiac, we will feel totally different by the end of next week. Now, does that mean that we're going to snap our fingers and everything's going to be fine and everything's going to be perfect and super handy dandy and we're just going to get, off to the best start? Probably not. Okay. It doesn't happen that fast. We still have a lot of aspects that are helping us sort some things out, but you best believe that we are going to be feeling lighter, feeling brighter, feeling a little bit more positive. We're going to be in the higher realms of our soul self, of our intuition, of gaining insight, of gaining vision, of gaining our dreams. So I know it's hard. I know that we're running out of patience. I know that it's hard to keep a positive outlook and perspective when we're constantly being kicked while we're down. But I just ask you to just take a deep breath in this here and now. We're all going to do it together. 3, 2, 1. And let it out. And if you have to do that every day, 3 times a day for the next week, you go ahead and do so. I just want to remind you that you're not alone. You're not doing this alone. You're never alone. And that you have not only my love, my support, me cheering you on to get through this next chapter, to get through this next little segment before our lives actually start mirroring back to us the inner work in which we've already done. But I just want to remind you of how powerful you are. And I want to invite you to step into that power, especially under this full moon, total lunar eclipse in the power-hungry, the authoritative energy of Scorpio. This is a time where we're going to take all of our pain and turn it into power. This is when we are going to sit in our darkness and we are going to turn it into light. I thank you for being here. I thank you for the love. I thank you for the support. I thank you for being in all of this with me. You all are just amazing. You keep me fired up and inspired and motivated to show up for myself, for you guys every single week. Together, we got this. So I want to wish you a beautiful week, a beautiful weekend, a beautiful eclipse energy. And whenever you need a little pep talk, a little reminder, reach out in the comments. Myself or any one of the beautiful souls here will give you the love and the support and the reminder that you need to know that you 100% got this. Sending you nothing but love. We'll talk to you soon.